During his campaign to represent Maine's 2nd District, Democrat Representative Jared Golden emphasized that he was willing to work with Donald Trump if he were elected.
Today, he delivered on that promise. Representative Golden introduced the Built USA Act. It will establish a 10% tariff on all imports. Golden introduced the bill last term, too, but it didn't go anywhere. He argues that taxing imports will drive an increase in American manufacturing and cites a Congressional Budget Office analysis that says a universal 10% tariff would raise $2.2 trillion in the next 10 years. Tariffs have been a big political talking point in the last year.
But how exactly do they work, and do they actually work? Donovan Lynch got some answers.
Agenda that includes tariffs.
With strong tariffs.
It's like a 10% tariff.
Tariffs or other things.
It's a word that's everywhere. But what exactly is a tariff?
Tariffs essentially are a tax on imports.
Let's break it down. Imagine you go into a store to buy a pack of socks. Chances are they were made somewhere else, like China. That's because between low labor costs and efficient shipping, it's just cheaper to make it overseas. But what if we want this product in front of us to be made in America? The government can put a tax called a tariff on shipments of Chinese-made socks, making it more expensive for the companies buying them.
This might benefit sock manufacturers who are not producing socks quite as cheaply in the U.S. as they are in China.
With the tariff in place and Chinese socks now more expensive, the store might find the cheapest product to put on the market is now made in Maine and not China. That could mean higher demand for domestic sock factories and more jobs as a result. But as Bowdoin professor Chris Herlin points out, there's a catch.
Tariffs increase costs.
With no competition from abroad and the relatively high wages American workers receive, those socks are likely going to cost more than $14.99, which wouldn't impact everyone the same.
Probably this kind of taxation that would place a heavier burden on lower and middle income families.
And then there's the response from overseas.
They'll usually retaliate by putting tariffs on things that we Americans export to that country.
Ultimately, what appears is a trade-off. Would you pay more for everyday goods if it could protect certain jobs and keep them in America?
So these distributional costs are borne very differently.
That was Donovan Lynch reporting. So now back to what the Treasury Secretary nominee said. He said optimal tariff theory does not support the idea that workers and small businesses will bear the brunt of the cost of increased tariffs. So optimal tariff theory says that a large importer of a good can shift the burden to the supplier, like making China drop their prices for the socks we import. Now, a European think tank called the Center for Economic Policy Research says there is little evidence to support the idea. And the Chicago Policy Review points out that when tariffs drop, the consumer tends to be the one to benefit because prices also drop.